That was then Senator Kamala Harris 4 years ago this month, just after being tapped to join the Biden campaign. Now it's her turn with her VP announcement just a few hours away. Who knows when that news will actually break? Let's bring in our political panel, Ashley Etienne and Maura Gillespie. Ashley served as communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris. Maura is a Republican strategist, frequent guest, who served as an advisor to former Speaker John Boehner and Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Great to have you both here. Ashley, we'll begin with you at the table because Vice President Harris is about to make this pick. How do you see it as someone who knows her well?
Well, I think that we're putting a little too much emphasis on the likability, whether or not they have a good personal dynamic.
Why is that?
Well, I just think that she's so malleable. She's such an easygoing person. And, you know, Obama and Biden didn't have a good dynamic. Biden and Harris didn't have the best dynamic going in, but they've proven to be great governing partners. So I think she's going to prioritize who can I be a great governing partner with? Who's bringing something to the table? I'm putting my money on Mark Kelly. I think he embodies her message and her theme of the promise of America. I mean, from a naval officer to an astronaut. I don't even know that they're making astronauts anymore. It's kind of incredible. But he's also a border state senator, so he can help push back on the Republican narrative and misinformation about the status of what's happening on the border in a way that I think no one else can. The other thing that he has going for him is his wife's story. It's an incredible story about the challenges still facing America, from political violence, right, to guns, the proliferation of guns, but also what we can do when we work together in a bipartisan way. I mean, Congress passed together Democrats and Republican legislation on guns. So I think that he's a really great choice. The other thing is I think he could play in just about any community that she needs to turn out in terms of independents, disaffected Republicans. I can see him playing very well with those audiences, and that's what she's going to need to win.
Maura, what about the Republican view of this? We just had Congressman Riggleman on, the former Virginia congressman, talking about Republicans for Harris. You know that New Jersey Shore area, Philadelphia region so well. Is a Governor Shapiro someone who could really help carry some of those traditional Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia nearby over the top for Harris, or is somebody else on your radar?
Shapiro is very popular. You know, he has over a 60% approval rating and won the vote with that much. So it's certainly a great option for Harris to be looking at him. You know, again, he is just in his term as governor. So right now things have been good for Pennsylvania to be under his leadership. However, I think that there are other candidates, like Ashley mentioned, Mark Kelly. Again, for people who are in the not a fan of Trump, but still vote Republican, they're looking for some other option because, quite frankly, but Harris has a pretty progressive record. She's quite liberal. So to have somebody who would balance her out, like a Mark Kelly, I think is a very viable option for people who are in the moderate camp, the independent camp, looking to have an option come November. So I think for this area, but also for nationwide, there are ways to pull on different things that Mark Kelly has in his record. But, you know, the law enforcement background that he has is also something that can tap into when you're talking about some of the more controversial policy decisions and rhetoric that Kamala Harris has used. So he can balance her out in a way that I think would be effective. But again, you know, Shapiro is also a good option. So it'll be interesting to see what she chooses any day now ahead of this week.
Ashley, you've worked with the vice president when she's been vice president. What has frustrated her about the job? What does she love about the job? And how might that influence how she makes her pick?
Well, you know, that first year when I was working for her, you know, when you're working for an 80-year-old, no disrespect to the president, but when you're working for an 80-year-old president, you're spending every day preparing for the day when you're going to be president. Because the reality is it could happen at any moment, right? It could happen in 23 minutes, right? And so that's the point we used to drive home for her. And so I think, you know, she spent those first 2 or 3 years in the presidential briefings with the president, kind of shadowing him to the point at which I think reporters were asking her, what's up with her standing next to him all the time? But she was literally learning the job in real time from him, and really at this crisis point for the nation. So she walked away prepared and ready day one. I think the aspects of the job I think she probably disliked when I worked for her is that we were in the middle of COVID. And she wasn't able to get out and touch and feel people. She's been spending the last year actually doing that, going into communities. I think 25 states recently, they said 60 to 70 communities she's been in. So she's really getting to understand the very plight of the American people, what's concerning them in a way that we didn't that first year because we were just trapped in the in the White House.
Maura, I want to play a clip from Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. Let's listen.
I think whoever she chooses, the problem is going to be Kamala Harris's record and Kamala Harris's policies. The American people are suffering because Kamala Harris keeps on making bad decisions. I don't really care who she chooses as a running mate. It's not going to be good for the country. And we're ready, meaning President Trump and I are ready to take the case to the American people that Donald Trump delivered peace. He delivered prosperity. Kamala Harris has delivered an open border and skyrocketing inflation.
What do you make of Senator Vance, Maura? He's been on the scene now for a few weeks as the running mate for former President Trump. Is he someone who's activating Republicans or turning them off? And what's your assessment as a strategist?
So choosing J.D. Vance does not add to the pool of Republican voters who would be willing to go over to the Trump side, who, whether they hold their nose and vote for Trump. Picking J.D. Vance doesn't entice anyone. That was a MAGA pick, and I don't think that it was thought through well enough, quite frankly, but the points that he's making there aren't wrong, right? The economy is going to be the #1 issue that people are focused on when it comes to November. And that's going to really be important for the Harris campaign and whoever she chooses to really hone in on how they're going to resolve things and why they should be, given a chance in November. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump can push on the economy. Down ballot races for Republicans would be effective to do so as well, talking about safety and security, probably coming up as the #2 issue, tied, I'd say, with women's rights. So again, there are these are the top 3 issues that I think that people need to be focused on. But J.D. Vance is not someone who, has been credible as far as his position stances. They've really ran the gamut. And so his point about manufacturing, bringing that home, that's important. But as far as the big tent party and, inviting, enticing Republicans who are, more moderate. No, I don't think he's done that effectively. But, there's still time before November, so we'll see what happens.
Ashley Etienne and Maura Gillespie, thank you so much.